Well, what's Ben against? Is he against this kind of diet? Is he against cutting out sugar, or is he for cutting out sugar? What is it? I'm not for saying. Welcome back to episode 6 of the Case by Case Training Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at how to figure out the exact amount of calories, or close to the exact amount of calories, that you need to consume on average to lose weight, and specifically to try and burn fat. We want to make sure that we're losing fat and not muscle as well. And so we're going to talk about some practical steps. I'm going to show you some tools that you can use, and I'm going to show you the actual implementation of how to figure this out, how to figure out for you, your unique body, your unique person, what the exact number is that you need to be hitting. The reason this is important, as we've talked about in previous episodes, is because each person is going to have different needs. Each person is unique in what things they want to add in to help with weight loss. You may want to exercise a certain amount of times a week. You may have more availability than someone else. You may be a little more of an intense person and you just want to do certain things a certain way, and maybe you're willing to do a little more than somebody else. Maybe you can walk more and have extra time to do that. That takes time, though. It takes time to get extra steps in if you're doing lots of walking. Maybe you don't have that kind of time. You need a quicker workout. So everybody's different in what things they're going to be able to do, what their lifestyle looks like, what their preferences are, what kinds of foods they even want to eat. And so if you don't have a clue what number of calories you can afford to eat on a daily basis, it can be really difficult to know, what your lifestyle can look like, what foods you can afford to eat, what foods you should probably not eat and avoid. And again, as I've said multiple times throughout the last 5 episodes, if you haven't checked those out yet, you can go and look at those and view those episodes, because they're all leading up to a point. They're not just separate from each other. They're all connected, and we're building this to a point where we're trying to start implementing the steps to see results. And not just results to lose weight fast and then, unfortunately, put it all back on. We want long-term results where you're going to lose weight and keep weight off. We're looking at a change of lifestyle, and not just simply, hey, do this restrictive diet and you're going to lose all this weight. I could tell you that will work with anything. I mean, you could come up with a number of different ways to restrict the amount of food you eat or what kind of food you eat, and you could just put a one-size-fits-all across the board. I'm cutting this completely out. I'm only drinking water. I'm only doing this or doing that. Those things can work. And they will cause weight loss most likely, because you'll be in a calorie deficit. But you might be in a larger calorie deficit than you need to be. You might be in a larger calorie deficit than what's necessary and what ultimately is maintainable for you. If you're doing super restrictive things and you don't have to, or maybe it doesn't have to be as restrictive, and you can still get the results and long-term results, something you can stick with and keep doing, why would you not want to go that route? And usually for most people, it's just, it's not that I wouldn't want to go that route. It's that nobody's taken the time to show me how to do it. Nobody's taking the time to explain to me how to find the exact calories that I need to consume. And again, there's multiple reasons I think that is. I think that the industry doesn't want you to know that, for one, because then you don't need their diet anymore. You don't need the, one size, this is the program. This is the workout program that works to get you to lose weight. This is the diet that works to get you to lose weight. This is the supplement that you need to take in order to lose weight. Well, if you realize, actually I just need to hit the calories that my body needs each day and I'll lose weight consistently, and I can just change my lifestyle to fit whatever that looks like in a way that works for me, and I'll be able to maintain it and stick with it long term. And you may still use some products. You may use a program from somebody. You may use a certain type of workout. You may still purchase a certain type of diet. But if you know how to get the results and you know what you need to do, you don't have to rely on somebody's specific product. You don't have to rely on some specific program or some specific supplement. You will know, here's what my body needs. And at certain stages of life, it could change on how getting those results looks. Certain stages of life, it might be easier for you to get to the gym more. And so buying a workout program that you can stick with so it helps you stay consistent might make sense then. But if you think that that's the only way, what happens when your schedule changes, when your life gets busier and you can't get in the gym 5-6 days a week? Are you just doomed? Well, no, because there's not just one solution. There's not one product that just causes weight loss. It comes down to calories in versus calories out. And that's why we need to figure that number out. That's step one. And we're going to talk through it. I'm going to show you exact steps. We're going to swing around, and I'm going to take you into my computer screen here to show you exactly what you can do. I'm going to make it very clear, very simple. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify rather than watching it on YouTube, you may want to go check the video out just so you can see the steps that we're taking. But either way, I will try to be thorough in explaining things. I'll try to be clear so that if you are listening, you can still know all the tools, resources, and the things that we're doing there. And I'll link all those in the description as well for you. Now, I mentioned that, for one, the fitness industry doesn't really want you to necessarily know how to figure out your calories because, again, then their product becomes potentially obsolete. They can't market it as the one solution for everybody. But additionally, the other thing is it takes time and effort if you're going to show somebody how to do this. It's not just as simple as, hey, cut out this from your diet. Hey, do this thing, do that thing. It's not just a simple one program, one plan that's created. Everybody's a little unique. Everybody's a little different. And so it's got to be figured out for each person. Each person needs their particular, needs and goals and all those things to be taken into consideration. And that's harder to do. Again, it takes a lot more time, takes a lot more effort. Usually the people who are doing it, they're gonna charge a lot more money for it as well. It's a lot more expensive. And that makes sense. It's not wrong. It takes more time, it takes more effort on their part. So something that's a customized plan of sorts, it's going to naturally also be more expensive. But if you're willing to put in the time to listen to these videos and follow along, I am going to slowly be unpacking it all for you, and it's obviously not going to cost you anything. So it's just taking time, really, to follow along and listen. And so I'm going to continue teaching you, and I'm committed to helping you figure these things out. But if you just want me to do it for you, that's an option as well. But again, yes, it does then take more time on my part. It's going to cost more money because I have to do it for each individual person. And so if 50 people reach out to me and say, yeah, that sounds great, can you do this for me? I have to go through for each individual person. Whereas if I teach you through these podcasts how to do it, everybody can do it. Hundreds of thousands of people could do it. Theoretically, that'd be great if I could help that many people, right? But the point is it's taking me the time to put the videos out still, for sure. And that's time I'm willing to put out because ultimately it could help a lot of people on a bigger scale if they follow along, if they put the steps into practice. And so that's why I'm doing this. And again, you're getting some information here and some tips and tricks that are usually going to be expensive otherwise to have done for you if you're going to pay a trainer to do it. Or you're going to, be stuck in the same spot where if you're not willing to pay more of the premium price for the customized plan and coaching and the help from somebody who knows what they're doing, then you're going to be stuck looking for that one program, one product that is the solution and paying, you get what you pay for. You might pay less, but you're paying a different price. You're not going to get results that last. It's not going to be maintainable most likely. And ultimately, you're probably going to do the yo-yoing throughout the process. And so we don't want that. We want to avoid that. But I get it. It's a lot of potential money. It's a lot of potential time to figure out how these things all work. And so I want to be patient with you, and hopefully you can be patient with me, and we can walk through this and figure it out together. So with that being said, let's go ahead. We're going to swing around here, and I'm going to show you on my screen exactly the steps to take in order to figure out for you what your calorie need is. And along the way, I'm going to just talk about some different things and give you some different tips and helpful things to consider as we go as well. All right, so we are inside my screen now, and the first thing you're going to do is type in calculator.net in your search bar, and then once you do that, you're going to come down here and find the one that says BMR calculator. So you'll go ahead and click on that, and it's under the fitness and health calculators. And then you're simply going to enter in your information, and so I'll enter mine here so you can see an example. And then it's going to bring up this number right here, your BMR, and that stands for basal metabolic rate. And you can read a little bit more about it, but essentially this is going to be the amount of calories that your body burns while at rest. So it's think metabolism, metabolic rate, right? So it's the calories you burn that aren't from energy expenditure. Now, what you're going to need to do is take that number and then come down here, and you don't have to do the math, they do it for you, thankfully, but it's going to be multiplied by the amount of exercise, and it's not the number here, but there's a number that you don't see here that's a hidden number. So it's going to be multiplied by the amount of exercise that you do in a week, and that is going to give you the amount of calories that you burn. And so that's going to be, that number is called your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure. And so it's going to be the total amount of calories you burn in a day, roughly. So you kind of have to look here and see, okay, which one, most accurately describes my week. Do I exercise 1 to 3 times, 4 to 5 times a week? And taking into consideration your activity level, for what you do for work, or if you play any sports, things like that, adding that in as well to the equation. And they define exercise here as 15 to 30 minutes of elevated heart rate. Intense exercise, when we get further down here, you see intense exercise on these ones, is 45 to 20 minutes, or 45 to 120 minutes, and then very intense is 2+ hours of elevated heart rate activity. And so again, you got to kind of take into consideration, yes, the times you're going to the gym actually and doing exercise, but also what's your lifestyle like? Is it pretty active as well? So maybe if you only exercise 2 times a week, but you also have a very, very active job, you might want to go more to the 4 to 5 times. But on the flip side, if you're only getting into the gym, maybe you're getting into the gym 4 times a week, but you're not doing very hard workouts, maybe it's more the 1 to 3 times a week. So you kind of have to, it's somewhat of a guess, I'll put it that way. And you don't have to stress about this because I'm going to show you how to tweak it. So it's not going to be perfect, but you just kind of estimate, okay, I think this one is probably roughly what would best describe me. So you're going to pick which one it is. For me, I picked the 4 to 5 times a week, and that's going to bring my total to 2,709 calories. And again, that might not be perfect, but we're going to talk about how we can adjust this, and it's a good starting place. It's better information than what you had prior, having no clue what amount of calories you burn in a given day. So this is going to get you somewhat close. And again, this number could be off as well. So this might not be perfect, which will make this not perfect. And that's okay. We got to get a starting point somehow. And so I'm going to take you through kind of the steps. So once we have that, there's another step to the process. We need to figure out, because that's going to just simply be the amount of calories I burn in a day. And so if I consume that amount of calories, I'm not going to lose or gain weight. I'm just going to stay the same. So what I need to do now is figure out, well, how many calories do I need to consume based on my goals? And so if your goal is to lose weight, obviously, you're going to have to eat less calories than that. Now, what a lot of restrictive plans and programs will do is they don't know what this number is here. It could be 2,000 calories for you. It could be 2,500 calories for someone else. It could be 3,000 calories for another person. But everybody gets the same restrictive plan of, let's say, 1,400 calories or 1,300 calories a day. That's a big deficit if your number is 2,700 as your starting point. That's over 1,000 calories in a deficit. That's extreme. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of weight, but it's going to cause a lot of other unintended effects as well. For one, it's going to slow your metabolism, making long-term weight loss difficult. In addition to the fact that, like we've talked about several times in this podcast already, it's not going to be maintainable. It's not going to be something you can stick with long-term, and so you're probably going to fall off and not be able to do it for a long time. So you may get a lot of quick results, but then are you going to be able to stick with it? And what's the alternative? If you can't stick with it, it's going to be to go back to what you normally do, which is just going to simply put the weight back on. Because you're probably, if you're gaining weight, it means I shouldn't say probably, if you're gaining weight, you're in a surplus. It means you're eating more calories than what this number is in a given day. So I put together a little chart to help you through the next step in figuring out, okay, what amount of calories do I need to consume to meet my goals? And I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on what a good number to set is. But you can find it in the description. It's a PDF document that you can download, and you'll be able to enter your numbers in. So you're going to want to keep this page up for this number and this number here that you have, or you can write them down so that you can enter them in on the PDF. And what you're going to do, and I'll bring it up just to show you. And I think I entered mine in on here. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So what you're going to do is enter in your BMR number there. Again, that's the calories you burn while at rest, and then the total amount of calories you burn in a day, counting your active calories. And then here is the chart I've put together for you that will show, okay, if I add 1,000 calories to that number, so if I'm eating 3,700 calories a day, I would gain 2 pounds a week. We don't want that, right? And as you go down, you see, okay, it's a little less. So you can see, though, here, it's helpful to understand simply eating 250 calories over this number, so about 3,000 calories a day, which I could easily do, I can tell you that, I would gain half a pound a week. And that will add up over time pretty quickly. And so if I'm not paying any attention, I have no clue how many calories I'm consuming on average. And again, one day it could be this number, but if the next day I consume 4,000 calories, what's my average? It's going to be in a surplus, right? And so if my average at the end of the week is a surplus of 250 calories a day beyond this number, I'm going to gain half a pound a week. And so this is how easy it is to gain weight. And really, I should say how difficult it is if you're not paying any attention and have no clue. It's so difficult because you just have no clue what you're doing. You're not paying any attention to it at all. And so this is why it's important to understand this stuff. And simply knowing how this works and understanding calories and what your calorie goal is can make all the difference in the world. And it may not be a drastic change in what your diet looks like. It really might not be. It might be a few small tweaks. You might be just as full at the end of the day as you currently are. I think we just think like, oh, I've got to starve myself in order to lose weight. Well, no, if you're eating the right foods too, we can make a few substitutions. You might actually be more full at the end of the day because foods that are super calorie dense and have a lot of calories oftentimes aren't as filling. And so it's a double whammy. It's like I could eat a lot of this and it's loaded with more calories. And so really once we start to understand what foods have, what types of calories in them and how do they fit into my goal each day, my personal goal, and each one of us is unique and going to have a different number here. Well, once you get that, it makes a big difference in understanding, oh, okay, I can eat this much in a day. I can eat these particular foods and I will still lose weight. I'll still get results, even if I have a little bit of something I still enjoy, as long as I'm hitting my calories for the day. So this is really helpful to understand. So looking at a deficit, I never recommend, and I mentioned this in some of this text below, you can read through it, but I never recommend doing more than 1,000 calorie deficit. I think it starts getting into that issue territory for several reasons, but some of the ones I mentioned, I think that it starts having the adverse effects on your metabolism as well as the ability to stick with this long term. And as you lose weight, you also don't want to be in as big of a deficit because you could start burning muscle as well. Once you get lower on your weight and you're getting closer to your goal weight, you want to slowly be dropping the amount of calories that you're losing per week over time because you don't want to start losing muscle. We want to make sure we're continually losing fat. Another thing is your body adapts, and I talk about this a little bit in an article I wrote, but your body adapts to more extreme conditions more quickly, and so that's where the metabolism can slow down. If we're losing a ton of weight fast, it's going to adapt quicker, whereas a smaller change over time is more likely to stay constant, and you can consistently lose small amounts of weight over a long period of time without your body adapting to it and plateauing as much. So that's why for me, I chose this number. I also just don't have very much to lose. I'm going to just try to cut down probably like 10 to 15 pounds. And part of the reason I'm doing that, I don't necessarily feel the need to at this point. I kind of have been doing a bulk up because I hurt my knee. Some of I had a surgery back in August of last year, 2023. And after that, I put on a few pounds, and then I decided, I can't really do soccer anymore. I'm going to just try to bulk up and put on a little bit of extra muscle. So I've been eating a little more, gaining a little extra unintended pounds as well. So I decided, this would be a good opportunity for me to do a mini cut to show what I do, some of the processes that I go through. And if you're thinking right now, oh, well, you got it easy because you already know what you're doing. You're thinner and it's easier for you to lose weight. Well, actually, it's harder to lose weight the less you weigh. The more weight you have, and I should define what I mean by harder, because I don't mean that it's harder for me like mentally, or it's harder for me to stick with it, or those types of things. You're right. I have an advantage because I've been doing this. I know what I'm doing, obviously. But I mean simply that it literally is harder. The amount that I'm going to have to do in order to lose weight is going to be more difficult. The deficit I'm going to have to go in to lose weight is going to be greater. And so I should say greater as in not this number here, but greater as in my starting number is going to be lower. So I'm going to have less calories to consume than somebody who weighs a lot more. And so if you are starting out, you actually can lose weight a little faster to begin with, and you can be a little more aggressive on this number to start. You could go closer to this 1,000 calorie mark. If you've got 30 to 40 pounds or more to lose, it's okay to start a little bit more aggressively and then slowly cut back as we get closer to your goal weight. Now, all that being said, my point is, I'm going to do this with you. I've gotten a couple requests from people saying, hey, how do you do it? Could you show us what your process is? And I was a little hesitant to go through with that because I don't want you to just copy what I do, because what I do isn't going to necessarily be specific to you. And that's what my whole point of this thing is everybody's unique, everybody's different. And so the problem in the fitness industry is partly hey, here's what I do, copy me. Hey, here's this one size fits all program that's not tailored to you. Do it. Well, no, we don't need more of that. We need more customization for people based on their bodies and their needs. So I'm hesitant about it, but I decided to do it because I'm going to be explaining that as we go. And I'm going to be sure to make sure to tell you, hey, you can't just copy exactly what I do. The reason I still want to show you, though, and I think it could be beneficial, is to, one, show you it works if you stick with a process. I'm not saying it works as in like do exactly what I do, but it works as in the process of figuring out what I'm going to do for me in order to lose weight by staying in a calorie deficit. The way I do that, the way I choose to be in a calorie deficit, could be different than how you choose to. I might exercise 5 times a week. You might exercise 3 times a week and eat a little less, and I might be able to eat a little more. Or vice versa. Maybe you're going to exercise 6 times a week and eat even more. Everybody can do it slightly different. Maybe you're going to drink caffeine, and that's going to help a little bit in this area, and I'm not going to drink caffeine or whatever. Well, I'm going to drink caffeine. So, there's different ways to go about the process. Maybe you're going to get this much sleep. I'm going to get that much sleep. Those things are all going to somewhat affect this number up here. The little things that we do. Are you consuming caffeine? How much muscle do you have on your body? Are you trying to gain more muscle? Because that's going to help boost this number. How much protein are you going to eat? All these different things come into play. At the end of the day, it's still going to be, are you in a calorie deficit? And so that's going to be what's going to get the results. And that's what I'm going to show you is that this works, is if you stay in a calorie deficit, it works. But as far as how I get there and do it personally, that's where I want to help you to design your own custom way of doing this and sticking with it, not just doing what I do, because you might not be able to stick with exactly what I do. And it took me a long time to figure out exactly what I do. And I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm going to be in a slightly different place than you are, and that's okay. That's the point, is we're all a little bit different, and we need to figure out what will work for us best. And so you might have to, play around a little bit and do this a few times to figure out what's going to work for you. Maybe some things don't work. Make it a decision right now. Determine in your mind that you're not going to give up if one thing doesn't work for you. If you try calorie counting and you're like, I'm going to stick with this and do this, and it's too difficult for you, that doesn't mean there's no possible way for you to lose weight and there's not another option. It just means we got to figure out a different thing that works for you to make sure you're still in a calorie deficit. Okay? So, and if it's, I'm going to, cut out sugar completely, and if that works for you and it gets you in a calorie deficit and you actually start losing weight and you feel healthier and you can stick with that long term, then great. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the thing I'm trying to get across. I think people sometimes get confused on, well, what's Ben against? Is he against this kind of diet? Is he against cutting out sugar, or is he for cutting out sugar? What is it? I'm not for saying this is the solution. That's what I'm not for. I'm not for everybody needs to cut out sugar, or everybody needs to do this diet, or everybody needs to cut back on carbs in order to lose weight, or this is the way you have to exercise this many days a week in order to lose weight, or that you have to exercise at all. Yes, it will help. If you cut out sugar, you will lose weight. If you exercise 5 days a week, you will probably start losing weight if you're in a calorie deficit. But can you stick with it? Is that going to be what's working for you personally to stick with it long term? Because that's what matters. Or is it going to drive you insane, and are you mentally going to become unhealthy? Are you going to develop a food eating disorder because you did some crazy restrictive diet? Are you going to become so body image obsessed that you develop other disorders? There's other negative effects that can come from doing something that someone else is doing and is working for them but doesn't work for you. And we have to be able to navigate that and say, hey, if this isn't working, there's other options. It's not this is the only solution. And again, people want to sell their product, so they're going to tell you it's the only solution. But it's not true. There's so many different ways we can get there. We just have to figure out what's the best way for you to get in a calorie deficit. So, okay, here's my number. Based on this, I'm going to subtract that 250 from here. This is the number I get. So that's going to be my goal, to hit this amount of calories each day in order to lose half a pound a week. Now, if I do this for a couple weeks, I would say give it at least 2 weeks to see what happens. Like, 2 weeks if I don't get any results. Listen, okay, this is where we need to be a little bit patient, because I think this is part of the problem. We want immediate, fast results. If you can't do 2 weeks of seeing if something works and it doesn't work, and now you need to make a tweak to make it work, there's an issue there, because you have to be a little more patient in this and make it not so much about just getting the results. It needs to be about a lifestyle change that you're working on, something that you're going to do long term. So we want to take the time to make sure it works and make sure it's right. And, how long have you gone without getting results? We get all excited. We're going to hop on a program or sign up for a new plan or get a gym membership or whatever it is. And that's what gets us into trouble sometimes, is we want such quick results and we lose our patience. It's like, well, how long have you been not doing it? So give it a little time, give it a couple weeks, see what happens. If you don't lose that pound in the 2 weeks, don't panic. It just means you got to adjust. You got to see what happened. So this is going to be our starting point, but it might not be the end goal. And I have to see. If I do this for 2 weeks and I lose 0 pounds, okay, that means I'm probably actually here. I'm eating the same amount. I'm eating this amount up here, my TDEE. And so all it means, hey, good news. Now you know. Okay, well, I just got to lower it a little bit more. So I'm going to knock off another 250 calories from this. Same thing. If maybe I lose more than I was expecting, then I got to decide, is that a little faster than I want to? Is it going to be less maintainable? Maybe I stick with it. If it was easy enough, it was like, hey, that wasn't too hard for me. I'm just going to stay at those calories and keep losing weight a little faster. If it's like, that was pretty tough and I could afford to increase my calories a little bit, have a few more little snacks that I enjoy, hey, that's worth it to me to slow my progress a little bit to see longer term results because I'm going to be able to stick with it. So you have to be able to think these things through and weigh, is it worth losing the weight faster if I don't feel like it's as maintainable? I want it to be as maintainable as possible. I want it to be as least of a big change in my life as possible so that I can do this long term and have it be a lifestyle that lasts. Now, another thing I wanted to mention is that you have to make sure you're actually hitting the amount of calories that you're saying you're hitting. So you need to be, for those first couple of weeks especially, on top of, am I actually consuming this? Because if I thought I consumed this, but really I consumed this for the last 2 weeks, that's going to affect the number, right? And I'm going to get a false reading of what actually is going on. So you need to understand that you have to track everything those first couple of weeks. You got to track your liquids. You got to track every little thing that you add, the butter, those little things, the condiments, everything. And I know you're like, oh man, I didn't think I was going to have to do this. It doesn't mean you have to do this long term, but we need to figure out this first. And that's majorly important. And so I'm telling you right now, if you can make a decision that you're going to stick with this for a couple weeks to figure it out and see, okay, this is the amount of calories I need to consume in order to lose this amount of weight, or whatever it is, whatever number you choose. You need to do that first, and then we can figure out other ways. We can figure out the process for you that works. Maybe it's not tracking every single calorie. Maybe it's not for you. Some people it might be. We can find other ways to make sure you're hitting those numbers, but first you got to know what the number is. Even if that means you're not going to do this long term on the tracking side of things. Some people track and they love it and they do great with it and they like it because it ensures they're going to get the results. But again, there's other ways we can talk about, and there's other methods and things we can do, but we just want to know what that number is first. So that's my kind of first step for you, is figuring this out. I'm going to give you a tool for tracking the calories and tell you exactly how to use it. In the next episode, we're going to go through all the steps with that. I'll link to it in the description, though. It's called MyFitnessPal. You may have heard of it. Maybe you even have it, but haven't utilized it yet to the best. And so I'm going to show you in the next episode exactly how to use it. And obviously, if you're listening, you might want to go check out the YouTube videos to get a better visual here. But these resources will be below. This PDF you can find in the description. My FitnessPal link will be in the description. And when we go through the next video, I will try to explain things in a way that you can follow along, even if you're listening rather than watching. That is about everything I have for today. So go ahead and go through these steps. Make sure you figure out these numbers. Go to calculator.net, enter in the numbers. You'll see your BMR, and then figure out your activity level. Add those numbers together. And, well, you don't have to add them. They'll add them for you. And then take that number over to the PDF and figure out, okay, what's my weight loss goal per week? And remembering, the more aggressive, the harder it may be to stick with. And yes, the less aggressive, the slower the results. But it may be long-term maintainable that way. And so think those things through and choose, and then do the math. And then you're going to download MyFitnessPal, and in the next one, we will talk through exactly how to use it and utilize it to the best. There is a little bit of other stuff in here that you can look at as well in the PDF, and so take some time to just go through that. It's not a lot, but it could be some helpful stuff for you. And I hope that this will help you get started. Like I said, I am going to go through this process with you. And so I'm going to just take a few minutes in each episode to kind of show you what I'm doing, show you some tips and different things, how I got to where I got with the decisions I make, and the process that I use. And hopefully you can take some of that to figure out for you what your process is going to look like. And again, it's not that you're just mirroring exactly what I'm doing, but you're figuring it out as we go by implementing your own numbers, like I just showed you today, and then taking some of the tips and applying them for yourself. So we will go through this together, and I hope that helps you stick with it and do it. So step 1, do this. I just did it for me. It's your turn, and then we will go from there. And if you want to comment in the comment section that you did this and that you're going to be a part of it and follow along, go for it, and I will love to read those comments and comment back and go through this together. All right. I will see you in the next episode. Keep up the good work.